Hey guys, what's up? It's Wolf King. Alright, this is going to be my second debunking. This time it's for a guy named True Empiricism. Apparently, he claims he defeated the atheist experience. He proved him wrong. Well, that's what he claims. Specifically, Matt Dillahunty regarding an issue regarding the argument from design. And I'm going to critique it to see if it holds any weight.
It is a contrast between naturally occurring and non-naturally occurring. That is how you determine whether or not something is intelligently designed.
So what you're saying is that everything out of nature is created and everything in nature isn't created. Well, this is a totally subjective statement that has absolutely no ground to stand on.
No, it's actually intrinsic within reality because if you want to call something that occurs naturally different from something that is artificially designed, then you have naturalistic patterns and non-naturalistic patterns. Something that occurs naturally, for example, like a plant, it grows in response to something we understand to be photosynthesis, where it gathers energy from the sun, and it also takes in CO2 and other natural processes which allows it to grow. This is different from something that occurs from something that is artificially designed, like for example a house, because the reason we understand that it's artificially designed is because we see builders building it. Now we'll get to that. We'll get to that later in the video.
Me, on the other hand, as a theist or deist or anybody who believes in the creative attributes or creative power, we know when we see the creative attributes in nature that they are creative attributes because we are creative beings, and we recognize the creativity of other minds because we've been exposed to them since our birth. So when we see them, we know them.
Okay, here's where he refutes himself in his own logic. Yeah, we see design in things like sand dunes or clouds or mountains, but we all know they come about through natural processes in terms of like empirical data. Like for example, we have some statues that look like animals. For example, clouds look like cars or people. We on Mars, in accordance with those satellites who took the pictures. I mean, one of the geological patterns on Mars looks like a face. But the thing is, people perceive nature to be intelligently designed based on like our experience with human artifacts. Meaning the reason we understand how a thing is artificially designed and different from something that occurs naturally is based on knowledge. We have seen painters make paintings. We don't have any knowledge of them coming about on their own or through any supernatural means or non-human intelligence. So it's a pretty bad comparison, and it really isn't evidence. It's just a bad analogy.
Know what we see when we see them. But before I state what I want to state, I want people to realize something. Science means knowledge or to know, and
He's right on that one. That one point he's right on.
I want you to consider RNA world studies, consider abiogenesis and iron sulfur studies. None of these are science. We have no knowledge of these things actually being true.
Okay, here's where he employs the argument from ignorance fallacy. He's saying we don't have any knowledge, therefore it's just not true. Okay. Now this isn't necessary. This is actually inaccurate. We know, as evident by the John Orrell's experiments and the Miller experiments, that life can come from non-life in terms of like certain biochemistry and then energy involved with this. I mean, it's been demonstrated to actually happen. It can occur. We don't necessarily know like how it occurred during that point in time, but we know that it's possible based on empirical data.
Um, For example, there is no knowledge of a prebiotic soup consisting of free-floating nucleotides. There is no knowledge of a sandwich consisting of amino acids that formed from inorganic material. Then there's definitely no knowledge of all of thousands of these amino acids coming together to make each and every individual biochemical compound to give minimal life function, because it's agreed upon widely that the minimal amount of proteins to give minimal cell function would be about 250 proteins. 250 proteins is the limited minimum amount of.
Well, I don't even know if the last thing you said was actually accurate. But going back to the thing where you said we have no knowledge of that relates to it. First of all, you're digging more into the argument from ignorance fallacy. We understand that life on Earth essentially have two things that are intrinsic within it biologically. In terms of biology, all life is based on cells. They are based on the same cellular architecture. Cells are basic units of life. In order for something to be considered living in the biological sense, it must have cells. That's what all life is built on. And also, life is based on the same genetic code, the same subset of molecules required for something to grow in this way. That is as well as we all require water in order to survive. That is, though all of those bits of evidence are empirical in the sense that we all share a common ancestor, one universal common ancestor that was cellular at one point in time, and all of this connects back to the study of abiogenesis and its science when it comes to the scientific community. That's why there's still origin of life laboratories that are working in right now studying the biochemistry of life on Earth.
Biochemical compounds expected by the scientists, and that would be about 5,000 amino acids worth. So it's here that I want to start, because it's here that is actually observable and testable. All of the other is just atheistic, naturalistic assumptions that are not testable, they're not observable, they're not scientific. We don't have any knowledge of that, and we can't see something like that. So it is not considered scientific. So here is where.
Well, his opinion and atheistic, naturalistic assumptions, not so much. And actually, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
I would like to start. I would like to ask you a question. What would be the difference between all of these components, all 5,000 of these amino acids coming and forming without a mind, and those of a laptop? And my second question is like the first. After you somehow are able to get all of this biological material through some extremely convenient circumstances, through inorganic material, what force is capable, besides a mind, of arranging all of these components in a strategic fashion to give it an overall function like that of a laptop? What force is capable of arranging these besides a mind?
I like how you use the word laptop, because here's the thing. Your question is basically a reaffirmation of your own assumption. You got a logical fallacy at the basis, which is the argument from ignorance, and the initial assumption which you make is baseless. Now, in terms of understanding how it occurred, first of all, the argument from ignorance there, it completely makes this argument or this question lose credibility, because you still assume that because science hasn't explained exactly the exact way of how it occurred, because we understand that it is possible. How it occurred, we are not sure yet. But for you to assume that science hasn't explained this, because science hasn't explained X yet regarding life, you can basically subset, well, not so much subset, but like just add in like your supernatural creator, for example, it's not a valid justification because it's an argument from ignorance. That doesn't mean, I mean, it's like that story with the lightning bolts. Like once upon a time, those people with a naturalistic worldview didn't have an explanation for lightning bolts, and people, superstitious people, were then felt justified in positing supernatural explanations for them. They were not justified, and those with a naturalistic worldview, science did essentially find that explanation, and it turned out to be a natural thing in terms of electrical currents in the Earth's atmosphere. So, for you to try to use this faulty logic, for you to employ this fallacy and this circular reasoning, which leads up to this assumed conclusion, it's just bad. It's just a bad argument overall.
Being involved. Now, keep in mind that evolution is not involved in this area of science because this is bringing in of biological material. There was nothing to evolve. DNA is information.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
DNA is necessary for life. DNA is guanine, thymine, cytosine, and adenine. The four.
I actually. Yeah. No. Let's keep going.
Character code that makes up trillions of different sequences of genetic information, and DNA is necessary for the functioning of the cell because these different biochemical, these different segments of genetic information, they interact with the different biochemical compounds there in the folding sequences. So my question would be this: what force besides a mind is capable of giving information, writing information?
Okay, dude, you keep, okay, you keep just positing that, dude. Every time you do that, you violate Occam's razor because you make an extra assumption that you haven't even backed up yet. Okay, now, in terms of like DNA, and you said you basically said DNA is like written. The thing is DNA is yeah, DNA is a matter of like the genetic material. But here's the thing, that occurs by way of like genetic changes which passes down through that. You can't say it's like a language based on, or like you could like write it down or something because that just violates Occam's razor. We know writing have writers because of empirical knowledge. We write, we see people write, therefore we can intuitively assume someone wrote it. But yeah, that's the same fallacy you invoked and I've debunked a while ago.
Now, I leave open the floor to the atheist to answer these questions because, to be honest, I've never had a legitimate answer or response to the questions that I've asked or raised. And I'm really curious to see the kind of response I'm going to get towards some of these atheists because...
Well, you got mine, pretty much.
When I look at the data, the scientific data, I see absolutely no reason whatsoever for anybody to not consider a creative power behind life and behind the universe.
Well, because science is actually based on like finding physical evidence and reasoned logic for things, and we started observable reality as a basis. And the thing is, this methodology is pretty dedicated to things that are real as opposed to things that are not real, like supernatural things, like your deity, which is disregarded in science because it lacks predictive power, as opposed to real things. That's why scientific naturalism works so well, because it has predictive power.
I mean, I understand that after this creative, you distinguish this creative power, that you realize that, okay, well, maybe the life is created.
You're basically okay. At this point, you're speculating on reality, and yeah, it's getting pretty I mean, you can think outside of reality all you want regarding the supernatural, but unless you can actually, I mean, without observable reality at a basis, you're kind of stuck, bro. Don't know what else to. I mean, the fallacy is pretty much. I pretty much debunked this, and dude, you didn't disprove nothing. You pretty much took this essential video.
There are different philosophical measurements to.
Actually, that's it. Okay, dude. Just to be clear, you proved no one wrong. Okay. You basically took what Matt said, you strawman that, and you went on a long terrible argument with a logical fallacy mixed up with an assumed conclusion, where you make a reaffirmation of your own assumption, and you have this big straw man which I light up with a fire of logic and reason, like Burning Man. So that's essentially it, dude. I mean, just watch the entire video, and hopefully you'll learn some real empiricism. There's no true Scotsman fallacy. There's either you use empiricism or you don't. And dude, you should change your name to false empiricism. I'm not trying to take no jabs, but dude, that's not empiricism. Okay, Wolf King out. Real empiricism.